You have to walk the talk. You have to be authentic as a leader. If you're not doing it, they see that.
It is entirely universal. There's other people who are going through this.
For me, a great leader needs to be able to marry three things: vision, systems, and people.
Welcome to Leadership Moments. If this is your first time, and if you are returning, thank you for your support.
This show is about leaders from all walks of life, leadership tips, and maybe even a little of what you wouldn't expect to help you in leadership.
We would appreciate it if you tell someone else about our podcast, as we strive to support all leaders that want to just be better.
Let's get on with the show. Today, we are honored to have Todd Loiselle joining us on the podcast. Todd is the Chief Information Officer at National Food Group, a leading provider of innovative food solutions for K-12 schools, correctional facilities, specializing universities, casinos, and they specialize in providing high-quality, cost-effective food products while leveraging technology to optimize supply chain operations and customer service. Todd has almost 30 years of experience in IT leadership. He's led large-scale digital transformation initiatives for billion-dollar companies across multiple industries. His expertise spans global IT operations, enterprise-wide ERP implementations, cybersecurity programs, and AI-driven automation, really helping businesses scale, optimize efficiency, and stay ahead of industry trends. Before joining National Food Group, Todd had held leadership roles at Mastronardi, Produce, Masco Corporation, Arthur Andersen Consulting, where he had played key roles in driving strategic technology investments and innovation. Todd has been recognized for his leadership and his impact. He was named the 2023 Small Cap CIO of the Year, highlighting his ability to leverage technology for business success. He holds an MBA with a concentration in Management Information Systems and a Master of Science in Finance, both from the University of Michigan, where he graduated with distinction. He has also earned a Bachelor of Business Administration in Supply Chain Management from Western Michigan University. And beyond his corporate leadership, Todd is an active thought leader in the IT community. He serves as a board member for the Midwest Technology Leaders and HMG Strategy, is a member of SIM Detroit, and a mentor of aspiring leaders through the Rebuild Character program. He also plays an active role in the Detroit community as a distinguished clown in the city's iconic Thanksgiving parade. And we're so excited to hear Todd's insights on leadership styles, the pivotal lessons that shaped his journey, and how building trust, empowering others, and learning from failure have defined his success. Hey, Todd, it's so great to have you with us today. I'm so excited for this session. And I know you've just got so much to share with our audience, and they're going to get so much out of it. So let's just dive right in. We've known each other now for 4 years. It's been incredible. You're one of our amazing, valuable mentors for the SIM Detroit Rise program, and you give so much back to the community, and we're so grateful for that. But I want to talk about something that we've spoken about, which is, when we met to discuss having you as a guest on the podcast, you told me an incredible story that will always be imprinted in my brain that I didn't know about you, and that has really made you who you are today. And I would love you to share that with our audience.
Sure. Starting off with the first question on vulnerability.
Yes, totally. Oh my God, totally.
You gotta be vulnerable, right? All of us, I believe, have our own personal struggles, the things in our life that have kind of really helped define us. In my opinion, my story is my story, but each of us has our own stories that is contributed to where we're at today. And for me, like my journey in this, my struggle started really young. When I was in first grade, I fell behind in reading, and I mean, I was really far behind. And, I was told at the time, hey, we're going to have to hold Todd back. And this was probably about first grade. And I was like, personally, I don't want to be held back. Like, all my friends are in first grade. Like, I don't even know the people in the younger grade. All of the kids in my neighborhood that I've been hanging out are in my grade. Like, I don't want to leave that.
Totally.
And the principal was like, well, you're just not there, and we don't think that you're going to get there. And so they tested me for kind of what were those things that were really hindering me. And they found out that I had ADHD and that I was dyslexic. And the times were a little different back then. They didn't have the correct medicines, they didn't have the correct training and so forth. And I distinctly remember my principal telling my mom, you need to set your expectations for Todd. He's not going to graduate high school, nevertheless, go to college. So you just got to accept him for who he is and know that he's never going to get there. And my parents were like, no, we totally disagree with you. We see him day in and day out, and we see his curiosity. We see the things that he does, and we don't believe you. And so my mom actually pushed for me to take an IQ test, and I scored exceptionally high. And the principal and the teachers there were absolutely shocked. They were like, how did this even happen? It proved to them, like, I had the capacity. The capacity was there, but something just wasn't clicking. So they decided, all right, we're not going to hold Todd back, but we're going to go ahead and put him in special education classes. And, I will be honest, I was teased. I was called stupid. I was called dumb. I personally felt very inadequate. And it sucked. I watched, all these quote unquote normal kids who were my friends go to class. And then I looked at other classes and they had like gifted classes. So I'm like, good Lord, like I'm not only behind the normal kids, but I'm way behind, where I would really love to be. And so it was imprinted in my mind of, okay, you are not where you're at. And so they put me in special education classes, but I was extremely lucky because I was paired with a teacher whose name is Miss McLeod, and she had the same things that I did growing up. And she had learned different ways to learn, and she could teach me that. And so, like, when I was growing up, they really just, you were taught through memorization. I've got to memorize it over and over again until it finally just sinks in my brain. And my brain doesn't work that way. It doesn't. And so the standard curriculum, the way that things were taught during then, just didn't work for me. And so what she taught me was how to learn with my 5 senses. And I can give you an example. So she would put, one example is she put the word orange up on the whiteboard at the time. And then she handed me an orange. And she said, Todd, she's like, I want you to feel the orange. Like, I want you to feel the texture of it. I want you to squeeze it a little bit and feel that indentation. And she says, now look up at the board. And that's what orange feels like. And she's like, okay, now I want you to split it open. And now I want you to feel it. I want you to feel the stickiness that's there, right? I want you to feel, now I want you to look at the board, and that's what an orange looks like. She's like, now I want you to smell the orange. Really smell it. Smell that citrus and really let it consume you. And so I did that. And she's like, and now look at the board. And then she says, okay, now I want you to peel it apart, and I want you to eat it. And this is what an orange tastes like. And then, boom, it just clicked. It just clicked, and I never forgot. It was fully imprinted in my brain, and it was an amazing technique that allowed me to learn in a totally different way. And so, you know, we practiced it and over and over and over again with lots of other different areas. And, eventually, as I got to, second and third grade, I started kind of hitting that. I'm getting close to the normal folks. And then I found by fourth grade, like I not only, got to that normal level, but I was starting to exceed others. Because they still learned in a different way, and I learned in a way that would just like make it solid, and I wouldn't forget, and then I could just move on. And a lot of the times today, I see this that classroom technique with my own son, and I'm like, oh no, let me show you a different way. But it also, for me, it comes back to I was very blessed and lucky to have a mentor early in my life. And somebody that said, hey, you're not a failure. We just got to find a different way. We've got to do things differently. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And, as I kind of reflect back on just how lucky I am. I've really been lucky to have many mentors throughout my career that have helped me to get where I'm at today. After graduating college, I started with Arthur Andersen, and I had, met an amazing guy. Arthur Andersen got bought by PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I met an amazing guy by the name of Tony Williams, and he showed me just how to put the work in, how to just put the work in, but still be there for your family. Gosh, just an amazing family man. And this was before I had kids. This was before, I was in that other journey of my life. But he showed really how to be a good father, but also to just show you how to grind and persevere. And then when I was at Masco, I had a great mentor. His name was Don Glover, masterful CIO or CEO later in life. He was a VP at the time there, and he took me under his wing and just helped me to truly understand leadership. Really. Right. And then later on, I was with Master Nardi, and I had just Mike Pellegrino that stepped in, and just a spectacular CIO. I mean, he could be a CIO for anybody, and they would be just so blessed. And his networking skills, he taught me how to network and how to get, my name out there. But most importantly for him, like he taught me that I can be my authentic self, that not all CIOs need to be bad guys, that you can be a nice person and be in that executive seat. You still got to be accountable and everything like that. But he really, helped me in that journey. And then now I've got Rick Collison. He is an executive strategist. He's an amazing human being, and I still meet with him every week, even though I'm in the CIO role, been here for a while. I still sit with him every week, and we talk about different strategies that are in place. I help, we go over different issue processing that I have, and he's been there, done that. He's retired, and it's just an amazing relationship. So even to this day, even while I'm in the seat, I still have mentors every week. And so that's why I also enjoy mentoring others. because I wouldn't be here today. And I'm absolutely beyond thankful. I wouldn't even be close to where I'm at today without those other mentors. It just wouldn't.
You know, when you tell that story, every time you tell it, it takes all my effort. I get such a lump in my throat because, you know, first of all, thank you for sharing with our audience, because, you know, it is a vulnerable story. But sadly, yeah, I think it happens to a lot of kids. And, you know, one of the reasons that I really wanted to talk about it, you know, on the show is because as leaders, I do think, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, you know, around, you know, how you solve problems and that. But I do think one of the things that's important for us is looking at problems in a different way.
Yeah.
And, you know, what you just shared is that you were blessed enough to have people around you who are not going to just say, well, it's always been done this way, or this is status quo, or, you know, they were prepared to think outside of the box. And then you had someone who had actually lived it, been it, and look at what they did. That really changed the trajectory of your life. You know, so instead of you being a victim of the circumstance, you became, you know, a product of the choices, right? You really, like, there were some really strategic choices that were made around you that put you in a position of power where you really were leaning into, you know, different techniques and skills that you had been taught, and in fact excelled, and to the point that you know, you're a CIO executive, and you've had a fantastic career, and you've also had these incredible mentors around you, because we all know none of us get to where we are alone. And, you know, if you think you know everything, well, the problem with that is nobody knows everything, and you always need mentors and advisors in your life. So you have to kind of recheck the gut a little bit if that's, you know, if that's how you're looking at the world, right? But I want to talk about something. You know, you've had these great leaders in your life now, right? I would love you to share with us, what are some of the things, you know, you as a leader, what are some of your principles, and why?
My principles. Um, you know, at my core, I truly care about people. Um, you know, leadership just isn't about driving a results. It's about, in my opinion, building people up and having fun at the same time. You know, I think really my leadership style is rooted in trust. And that's intentional. It's really intentional. You know, earlier in my career, when I was at Masco, I was in their executive program, and I had bounced around in different business units. And one of the business units that I became a part of, when I joined, they were in dire straits. They were bleeding money, and I didn't realize when I took the position that they were in such financial distress. And upon starting, I was asked to reduce my staff in the first 2 months by 20%. Now, imagine I'm a new leader coming into an organization, and my CIO is like, "You got to cut 20%." I don't even know the individuals well enough yet to make a good assessment, but that's what I was asked to do. And then 6 months later, I was asked to do another 20% riff, and oh my gosh, it was just so heartbreaking. The hardest thing any leader can ever do is let somebody go. It just, especially for me, just jolts at my core. And I could do it. But I didn't thrive in that environment. I wasn't built like that. I was built on building around trust. And for me personally, it was like, how do I build this trust when I'm firing people all left? Like,
Oh yeah.
I'm looked at as a bad guy, and people are terrified of me. And I haven't had a chance to do that. And, I took this to heart, and, my CIO pulled me aside, and he said, Todd, he says, you've got these aspirations to become a CIO. And he's like, you're never going to become a CIO. I was like, what? And he's like, you're too nice. You can't be nice. And I was like, shit. Oh, I spent my career trying to get to this role. And if this role means that I have got to uh, be somebody that I'm not, then man, it really made me rethink, did I have the right goals? Was I doing the right things? And oh, that was just, it was so draining on me. And at my core, I believed then, and I still believe now, that like trust is the foundation of high performing teams. When people feel valued, they go above and beyond. And so, you know, I leaned into that and I said, okay, this isn't for me. And, I'd also done, led other companies that were like steady Eddie. And I thought, you know what? I want to try a growth company. I want to see where my passion and my skill set and leaning into trust works with growth companies before I say, okay, I'm not going to be in the CIO seat. And so that's when I joined Master Nardi. They were roughly 600 million in sales at the time. And over the 5 years that I was there, they grew from 600 million to 2.2 billion.
Wow.
And I just found that I thrived in that environment because I got to build my own teams. I got to build my own trust. I got to get my own guys and gals. And man, we would just pound through walls and get results and have fun doing it. So for me, I think the important thing is know who you are first, and then find a company that plays to your strengths. And it's okay if you're not built to help distress companies. It's okay if you are built that way. But know where you are, and but I know where I'm at, and I don't lead with fear. I lead with trust. And that's why my teams there succeeded, and I'm with another growth company now that I absolutely love. And I've got an amazing team around me that we'll blast through walls again. We'll just get results, get stuff done, but we're having fun doing it. And when you have that mix, when you have the working hard and you're having fun, the results are much higher.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I really appreciated that, Todd, because I do think trust creates team loyalty, and people they want to work hard for you, because they care. They really care.
And I care as well.
Yeah,
Why I work so hard for
that's
them.
right. Yeah, that's right.
It's a two-way street.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what is, you've been in leadership, a long time. What is what's one of the hardest lessons? That was actually a hard lesson, but let's just talk about another one, okay? What's one of the hardest lessons that you've sort of had to face, and what has that taught you?
I would say the hardest lesson that I've learned, and then I've seen others learn and have mentored them on, is what made you successful before won't make you successful now.
Mm.
And so what do I mean by that? So a lot of us that are in leadership went through the ranks as a high performing individual contributor. We just were. There was something that we did, whether it was through hard work, through perseverance, we showed up, we solved the difficult problems, and we had, a great mindset. We got satisfaction out of, building things for others, and our values as an individual were directly tied to the results. We took it personal. If something didn't, go over the finish line, like we were accountable for it and just worked harder to get it done. And so generally what happens then is those high performer individuals are then asked to lead other people, because the thought process is, hey, if they can do it, then they can teach it. But what you often find in individuals that are going through that transition is their values are tied to that individual effort. And so if they see things that aren't being done the way that they would do it, then they go back and they do it again. Or they go back and they do those individual contributor things because that's how they got their value previously. Whereas a leader, you've got to change your mindset, and those things that made you successful in an individual contributor, like you can't do those anymore. You've got to look at situations differently, and instead of answering the question, for somebody or solving their problem, you've got to empower them to solve their own problems, and you've got to delegate and have those problems solved so that you can free yourself up to do the strategic work. And it's up to you as a leader now, as you move up, to build the processes for others to be successful, rather than doing the nitty gritty work. You're responsible for removing the obstacles from others rather than doing the direct, contributions. And I think a lot of business leaders have a difficult time making that that jump, and I did as well. It wasn't like one day I turned around and I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to do this anymore. It took time. It took me, I don't know, 4, maybe 5 years. Stop doing the stuff that made me successful before and to start doing the new things that are going to make me successful going forward in my new role. And, I watch others, especially in the mentor program, go through that same journey. And they're like, oh, but I can do it better. Or, oh, I'm still doing this on the side and I'm leading. You got to make the jump. Until you make that full jump, until you get your values, your intrinsic happiness by watching other people succeed, then you're not the best leader that you can be.
Yeah, I think that's excellent advice. And I do think that people do struggle with that, especially when they're moving in, because somebody might not do it the way they think it should be done, or it's easier for them to do it, or it's harder for them to train the person, or whatever it might be. Now, you do something with all your mentees in the program. And I want you to share this with everyone, because I really think this is very good advice for anybody listening.
Talking about the vision board, right?
That's right.
Yes. I do that with every one of my mentees. And I'm doing it literally right now with my nephew as well. He's 25. But the thing that I get back to is goals. People with goals they're 10 times more likely to succeed when they know what the goal is. And if you write it down or you visualize it, then, it's you're exponentially more apt to succeed in those areas. And so what I do is I have my mentee go out and pick 9 to 10 goals that are out there for themselves, and for everybody they're completely different. Their goals around spirituality, their goals around family, their goals around money, their goals around career growth, their goals around volunteer work, those 9 to 10 things that they really want in their life, the things that are going to give them purpose, the things that are going to really drive them to that. And so I had them put together a collage with those 9 to 10 items. And I also asked them to pick a big, hairy ass goal, something you think is totally unattainable, but oh my gosh, wouldn't that be just absolutely amazing if I had that? And for everybody, it's different. For me, it's buying an island. I would love to own my own island one day. And then what I ask individuals to do is put it in a place that you're going to look at every day, every single day. And it could be anywhere. It could be on your computer. It could be above your head. When you wake up in the morning, it could be on your mirror, in your bathroom. For me, I've got it on my phone. Literally, I've got it on my phone here. So every time I take a call, every time I do something, I have that focus every day that I look at. And then what I ask the mentees to do is I say, look at those goals that you have today and ask yourself, the things that you're working on, are they contributing to those goals? And if they're not, then stop doing them. Stop doing them if they don't work for the things that you're ultimately, trying to get to. That North Star, I call the vision board, the North Star of where you're trying to get to, then stop doing it. If you're playing video games every night and those video games are getting in the way of your friends and your family, then stop doing it. Really have those goals to do these other things, and then stop doing them. And then what I asked them to do, as we're further in the process, is I asked them to look and see if they're overemphasizing on a particular area. Because we all do that. We will look at our career growth and our careers, and we will invest all of our time, energy, and effort into that career, where on your vision board, you've also got your family. And are you spending too much time on your career and not enough on your family? If you are, then your family's going to suffer. They just ultimately will. And conversely, if you're overly focused on, say, your family, and everything is all about the kids all the time, 24/7, then you may miss out on the spiritual growth that you need. And you could be fully invested in your spiritual growth, and your career and your family could be dismal. So what I tell them at TEAS is look at that holistically and find balance in between there, and know that at different parts in your life, you will naturally overemphasize a particular area. And that is just, it's normal. But where the power of this vision board, in my opinion, is that you can go back to it and say, do I have the right balance? And if you don't, then you can shift it and you can get back there, so that you keep, shifting back to that North Star. Because ultimately, when you're going in that direction, regardless of whether you hit the ultimate goals or not, when you're going in that direction, that's where your happiness, in my opinion, lies the best. That's when you're happy, you're healthy.
Yeah.
Is when you have that clarity, you have that direction, you have that purpose, and you're charging at full steam, and you see it. And then the results happen, and you're like, oh, this is really cool. Like, I manifested this. But you manifested it through hard work, dedication, and clarity. If you don't have that clarity, then you're going after something that you may not want.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. That's so, so good. Now, you've got a superpower that I think I wanted to really touch on this, because I do think this is something that new leaders specifically struggle with, which is this solving the right problem. Okay, now that is a superpower you have. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to sort of just dive a little deeper in terms of, how do you accomplish that?
Yeah. For me being in IT, one of the most difficult things that people find is answering, the understanding what the right problem is so that they can answer it effectively. So in my past, I was taught a method called the 5 whys, uh, where you're presented with a particular problem and you ask why, and then you get an answer, and then you ask why again, and then you ask another answer, and you drill down until you get to that root cause. And so I have been doing this in my career for quite some time, and it's become so innate that it's become really what I feel is my superpower, because it gets me the results that I need to succeed. So let me give you just kind of a high level IT example. Uh, you know, Somebody comes to us and says, hey, the ERP system is running really slow. And we need to do a hard grade upgrade so that we can get more, that speed back. We can get back to where we need to be. And so for me, I would look at that situation and I would say, well, why? Well, why are they taking too long right now? And the answer could be, well, because the database queries are running inefficiently. And so, okay, well, why are the queries running inefficiency? Well, we've got large amounts of data that's out there. And I'm like, okay, so is the data necessary? Are we purging old data? Do we need that data anymore? And, were the reports, were they even optimized to run these long queries that are out there? And then you get the answer back of, well, no, we don't really archive. And oh, well, those reports really aren't meant to run it in that way, but they could be tuned. And you're like, aha, okay, so now we're there. We know that this isn't necessarily a hardware issue. This is a process issue. This is a governance issue. This is a report modification issue. Let's go back and solve that governance problem first, solve those reporting problems first. Now I'm not spending money. I'm not going to, my CEO and asking for a $5 million hardware upgrade, which really wouldn't have fixed the root cause of the problem. Now I've got, I've saved all of that money. I've solved the root cause of the problem, and everybody's happy. My CEO's happy. I'm happy. So that's just kind of one example of, drilling down, ultimately finding what that root cause of the problem is and solving that, rather than solving a surface level problem that you got to keep going back to over and over again. It's inefficient. You get really good at asking the questions and drilling down into the questions. That's where your true power really lies.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I really love that, because root cause is where it's at. Root cause is absolutely where it's at. I think that's fantastic. Now you have, and this is our last question before we go into some fun here. But you have another competitive advantage, and I'd love you to just, I think there's just so much truth in what we spoke about here, and I'd love you to just share that with everybody.
Yeah. That I believe my competitive advantage is that, I don't let failure consume me. And I think that kind of gets back to the original question of, if I had let failure consume me when I was a kid, like I never would have moved forward. I never would have grown. And oftentimes when I see others that, are just overwhelmed with where they're at and in a failure that they are in, or a position that they're in, I say, look, I can only go from where I'm at. I can't change the past. I can only change the future. And, for me, failure, it's not a dead end. it's a signal for me that tells me something's not working. The biggest mistake that a lot of people say is, it's not failing that's the crux of the problem. It's wasting the time dwelling on it
Yes.
and dwelling on that failure, and instead of, woe is me, this all happened to me, and being in this unending cycle of dread, you turn it around and say, well, what can I do now? What can I do now? What can I do better? And I separate the emotion really from the analysis. I step back and I say, what was this a bad decision or not? And if so, do I have the right data? And then what do I have control of? What can I do moving forward? One of the things that I compare it against is, AI, ChatGPT, all this great computer processing that's in place. That GPT doesn't care if it failed 30 million times trying to answer your question. It doesn't care. It just keeps moving forward. It adjusts quickly and just keeps moving forward. And I think that's been a part of my success as well, as, okay, this didn't work. Fine. Don't let it slow you down. And you still are going to have to take risks. If you feel failing, you make safe choices. And the safe choices for me, they don't lead to breakthroughs. It blinds you to some of the real lessons that are out there. So, we were on a panel, Tracy, you and I, last week, and one of the gentlemen on the panel, who knows who he is, love him to death. He said, get comfortable with failure.
Yeah.
And I loved that, because as a leader, you do have to be comfortable with failure. But I would add one thing to it, and it would be, but never let it consume you.
Yes.
Because if I let it consume me, then I would have been, like that original principal said, I would not have graduated from high school. I would not have gone into college. I would not be in the position that I am today, had I let it consume me. And so, I just want others to know the struggle is real. It is, but you're not alone. You're not alone. We all go through those things, but sometimes you just gotta, pull your pants up and just go after it and figure it out.
Yeah. Suck it up, Buttercup. Get on with it. Get on with it. So I have some fun questions for you. First question. Would you rather always have to sing your responses or always have to dance when communicating?
I do like to dance. My wife likes to dance a little more than I do. But I personally love to sing. I started singing in high school, and I thought I was going to be a basketball star, and I practiced all the time, and I was terrible. It's just awful. But for singing, I didn't try very hard, and all of a sudden, like, I was really good. I was just it was a natural gift for me. And I sang for the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. I sang at Red Wings. I sang at the Detroit Pistons, the national anthems there. I've had some really great experiences with singing, and I just love it.
Okay, so you're going to be the singer. That's it. We got you. We're going to have to put you in some of my songs, man. I didn't know this. So we got to put you in some of my songs. All right, second question. Would you rather have the ability to cook like a world-class chef or have a personal chef who makes all your meals?
So this one's fairly easy for me, but I've got a little twist to it. So I personally would rather have a personal chef. And and I do, and she's my wife, and she's amazing. One of the best cooks that I know. But I would add a caveat to that. I also want my personal chef to also clean afterwards. Because every chef that's out there spends all this time and effort to make the perfect meal, and then there's all these dishes that need to be put away.
And they're so messy for some reason.
Yeah, and I want to eat the great meal and then not worry about putting the dishes away. And that's just me.
Oh, that's so funny. I totally hear you. I was the dishwasher in my house and I hated it, but I did it anyway. Okay, last question. Do you want to live in a house with an incredible view or a house with the most comfortable interior?
Oh, for me, this is easy. I am more on the incredible view. I am very blessed to have a house that sits on the lake. And I live in Michigan, for those that don't know. So we've got great summers and we've got really cold winters. But, during the summertime, we can go out and sit next to the fire and, my kids love to fish and watch them fish and catch a bass and be so proud of what they caught. They love to kayak around the lake and watching them out there, just being in nature, looking at the water, at the sun that gleams off of the water. And even in the winter time, it freezes over and we go out there and we shovel the snow and we get our ice skates on, play a little hockey, or, just skate around. We're a big family of like being outdoors, being in nature, love nature. So for me, I'd rather be outside, smelling the earth, just being with family than being tied up in, with nice furniture.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Well, listen, for all our audience out there, I don't know about all of you, but I got so many little gold nuggets from today. And, take the lessons. I mean, Todd, you've shared so many incredible, valuable lessons for everybody, no matter what stage of leadership you're at or what stage of your career you're at. And I'll make sure that we get you Todd's information. If anybody wants, to reach out to Todd, please do. And look, we have an incredible executive in our community, Todd Loiselle, and so grateful for that. So grateful for everything that you give back to the community as well, Todd, and certainly really appreciate the partnership. So listen, to all the audience out there, this is what this show is about. Spending quality time with executives like Todd who, teach us. We all learn from each other. And today, I think you taught us so much. And I'm just really grateful for that. So leadershipmomentspodcast.com. Give us your feedback. Give us your comments. We welcome them. We want more amazing leaders on this show like Todd. And Todd, thanks so much for being with us today.
I really appreciate Tracy Ann, and I appreciate all that you do in helping out the community, but just loving people. We need more of that in our universe and in our world. We need that ripple of happiness, and you're the ripple. I mean, you are the rock that is generating so much goodness in the world, and I just hope you know how much you're appreciated.
Oh, thank you, Todd. Really appreciate that. Thank you. Now, I'm not going to cry on this episode, though. So with that, we're going to cut it off. Thanks, everyone. If you enjoyed the show, please go to leadershipmomentspodcast.com to subscribe to the podcast or on your favorite player, as well as follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn.
You can also send us a message on what you like and don't like, or what guest you want us to have on the show.
So until next time,
this is Stacey Castor, and what doesn't challenge you won't change you.
And I'm Tracy Ann Palmer.
be the change you wish to see in the world.